Just a year ago, the Boston Celtics stood at the doorstep of a dynasty, with a roster stacked to the brim and the bitter lessons of past playoff failures fueling their fire. 2024 felt like the year they'd finally turned the corner from contenders to a lasting NBA empire. But that dream didn't just fade, it shattered. In a stunning collapse that left the TD Garden crowd in silence, Boston was sent packing in the 2025 Eastern Conference semifinals by a Knicks team many considered inferior on paper. But what came after the elimination cut even deeper than the loss itself. The cold, clinical unraveling of a team that looked built for years of dominance. The face of the franchise, Jayson Tatum, suffered a devastating Achilles rupture, a career-altering injury that not only sidelines him indefinitely, but also places a ticking clock on Boston's championship window. Best case scenario, he's back in time for a late-season push. Worst case, he doesn't play at all in 2025-26, and even if he returns, no one truly knows what kind of player he'll be after the surgery. In the shadow of Tatum's absence, the Celtics front office is now trapped in a brutal cap squeeze. The looming threat of the NBA's second luxury tax apron has turned their once-deep roster into a financial minefield. Hard choices must be made. Kristaps Porziņģis, a cornerstone when healthy, could be trade bait. Jaylen Brown, despite being the highest-paid player in league history, may no longer be untouchable. Derrick White, Al Horford, everyone not named Tatum might be on the table, and even that certainty now has an asterisk. So where does that leave someone like Torrey Craig, a mid-season pickup who logged just 17 games in green? Craig wasn't brought in to change the Celtics' destiny, and he didn't. Averaging under 3 points in limited minutes, he was, by all accounts, a fringe rotation piece. On paper, his departure wouldn't even register, but paper doesn't tell the whole story. Craig is 34. He's seen locker rooms implode. He's been waived, traded, overlooked, yet he still wants back in, not just with any team, but with this one. And while Boston has bigger fish to fry this summer, a team teetering on the edge of identity crisis might just benefit from a voice like his. As he told Celtics blog, "I love everything about Boston. Just being around guys who already won it. Seeing how they operate, how tight-knit they are. That culture, it meant something to me." The culture he speaks of, that sacred, elusive, Celtic pride, is now more fragile than it's been in a decade. When a franchise loses its anchor, what remains is culture. And while Craig can't replicate Tatum's talent, he might help preserve what makes this team still believe it can win without him. Boston will likely give Sam Hauser a larger role. They'll hunt for undervalued wings and hope the locker room doesn't fracture under pressure. But veterans like Craig, low-cost, high-character glue guys, might be more valuable than ever. If the Celtics' next era is going to be built on grit rather than glamour, then a player like Craig shouldn't just be on speed dial. He should already be back in green. The Boston Celtics were not just expected to compete for a championship this season, they were built for it. A 64-win juggernaut, constructed to dominate both ends of the floor, and finally exorcise the ghosts of recent playoff failures. And yet, here we are. The season has ended in humiliation, with a second-round elimination at the hands of a surging but still flawed New York Knicks team. No injuries excuse this. No learning curves or chemistry issues justify it. This was a collapse, a failure of execution, identity, and perhaps even leadership. And it may very well mark the end of this era of Celtics basketball as we know it. According to Shams Charania of The Athletic and ESPN, Boston is going to make trades. This team will look very different next season, and he's not bluffing. The front office isn't just exploring tweaks. They're preparing for a potential roster overhaul that could detonate the familiar core. Everything except Jayson Tatum. Tatum, ironically, is not just untouchable because he's the face of the franchise, but because he's currently recovering from a torn Achilles suffered in the series against the Knicks. It's an injury that may linger, complicating any short-term plans for contention and forcing Boston to look deeper at the long-term viability of the current core. The implication? Everyone else could be on the table. That includes Jaylen Brown, Jrue, a two-time All-Star, All-NBA caliber wing, and the Finals MVP just a season ago. Brown has been both the Celtics' savior and scapegoat over the past few years, but his value on the open market is undeniable. If Boston chooses to break up the Tatum-Brown duo, it won't be for lack of belief in Brown's talent. It'll be because the franchise has finally admitted that this dynamic, as electric as it is on paper, may have hit its ceiling. Houston and San Antonio are two of the most logical destinations. The Rockets have young talent, Jalen Green, Amen Thompson, cap flexibility, and a war chest of future picks. The Spurs, they're sitting on a golden opportunity, Victor Wembanyama's rookie window, and possess the number 2 overall pick, plus valuable young players like Stephon Castle, Devin Vassell, and Jeremy Sochan. If Brad Stevens is looking for a retool, not a rebuild, these teams have the pieces. Jrue Holiday is another name floating in the trade rumors. While his defensive prowess and veteran leadership are invaluable, Boston may have overestimated how well his skill set fits alongside Tatum and Brown. A team like the Dallas Mavericks, especially if they lose Kyrie Irving in free agency, could be desperate enough to overpay for a stabilizing presence like Holiday. And if Dallas isn't calling, you can bet Miami or Philadelphia might be. Then there's Kristaps Porziņģis, who could end up being the first domino to fall. His injury history makes him unreliable in the playoffs, and his contract situation only fuels the speculation. The Warriors, who struggled with size all year, and the Magic, who lack any kind of frontcourt scoring outside Paolo Banchero, are logical suitors. A swap involving Porziņģis and Wendell Carter Jr. makes too much sense for both sides to ignore. The truth is, this offseason will test the soul of the Celtics organization. It's no longer about whether they can contend. It's about whether the formula they believed in for so long was flawed from the start. Continuity bought them stability. It didn't buy them a championship. And now, with the East only getting stronger, the Celtics can no longer afford to play it safe. This isn't just a summer of tough decisions. It might be the beginning of a reckoning. Trades don't stop, and you don't want to miss out. So keep following and keep an eye on what's next.